right here at the directions, sorry. Call to order. No. What are we ordering? No. Roll call, we'll go with you, Sue, first. Roll call.
Sue Polidora.
Eva Boyce.
Don Borgeson.
Dee Dee Forte.
Susan Sterry.
Chris Benesick.
And Suzanne Woodland on behalf of the City of Portsmouth, Deputy City Manager.
Okay. So
And then we should get Celeste, who's
Celeste,
on.
sorry, Celeste. I have to.
Hi, Celeste Brooks.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi, Celeste.
I'm going to make sure we get you on the list for the mailings from the city. She didn't
She
ever.
didn't get the,
Yeah, so I'll just double check.
oh, I'll check, because I saw her name on what I sent yesterday, so maybe we just don't
I
have the
think-
right
I
email.
think it's because I gave Sue a new email for all of the
Way back
correspondence, and that got buried in my personal. I did find it.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
sorry.
Oh, good. So you did find my email?
Yes, I have a separate
we have a
one
form.
that just for cemetery committee
Oh,
business.
Carrie.
Okay, excellent,
Carrie?
excellent. Good.
Have a quorum?
Yes.
Yes.
You make a
I
quorum.
haven't seen me, but not that happy, right?
Yeah, no. Celeste,
yours.
can you email that to Cynthia, your new address, and she'll make sure it gets on the right list?
Thanks a lot.
I mean, that will go to your other email.
How are you?
Okay, so now we have to do another roll call. No.
We'll just, I'll make sure the minutes note that
Yeah. Carrie
Carrie
walked in.
walked in and we
4 minutes
all,
late.
we were all excited. Okay.
Okay, so now we can,
We can vote.
take a vote on the minutes.
Minutes.
Move that we accept them.
A second.
That's good.
Yeah, I will.
Technically, call for the,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, go ahead. Doesn't, someday I will know how to do this.
I think
Celeste, are you and I?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, well, we're gonna pretend you did a roll call. I'll note it that you all, because I didn't hear anything different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Approval of the minutes, that's done. Use of social media. I am going to turn that over to Suzanne because she's going to make it clear for all of us what we can and can't do and why we can't or why we can. So,
No.
yeah.
So social media is a little tricky for public bodies, and you are a public body. And what that means is when you engage in communications sequentially, it can create a public meeting, and you're not supposed to have public meetings unless they're noticed. So the challenge with social media is that if you are all on a web page, a social media site at the same time and weighing in on something relevant to your committee. So let's forget if you're checking out the latest restaurant. So something about, cemeteries or what we would discuss here. That's a problem if there's a quorum of you on that social media site all weighing in on cemeteries. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't post notices of, upcoming events on your own personal page. Hopefully, you all aren't on each other's pages, beyond the number 7, which is our quorum.
I don't think I'm on anybody's page.
So that's the kind of line that you're walking. So use social media. We have a city Facebook page, which, as you know, Stephanie manages, and we're happy to push out stuff for you. We're happy to update the cemetery committee page as more events happen and we have more pictures and more stuff to put out there. So that's all good. It's not don't use social media, but we have to be careful of it when we're in the context of our public body mission and functions, so that we don't accidentally create a non-noticed meeting. So that's why, again, if you're on your own page and maybe just one of you are friends with another and you're pushing out information about the great work you did at the headstone cleaning, awesome, no problem. It's just when you get to that magic number of a quorum, you're 7, that's when your little red flags need to go off and say, oh, if we're not talking about the new restaurant and we're talking about one of the cemeteries, which is the subject of our coming together and meeting and talking, that's where you need to draw the line so that you don't kind of go over that. Because even if it's 2 hours later or the next day, it's that serial conversation that we're trying to prevent. Minor things, when we send out from a staff perspective scheduling and we send an email out to all of you, not too worried about the minor scheduling pieces, but that's why oftentimes I'll have a reminder if it's substantive, which is don't reply all. We'll talk about it in the noticed meeting. And that's why. It's my understanding in Massachusetts, they basically have a hard no when it comes to social media if you are a public figure because of that risk. New Hampshire does not have a hard no. It's just you have to be cognizant of who's in the pool for discussion. That's all. So does that help? And that's why it's a little hard to have an independent sort of social media website page. Now, that being said, the city, for example, has a stormwater page, an Instagram page where we put up stuff specifically related to water quality and our little stormwater videos about pick up your dog poop and, those kind of things. We could certainly consider at some point developing an Instagram page just for this committee, for example. Right now, I'd say we don't have the bandwidth from a staff perspective, because if you're going to turn on comments and that kind of stuff, you've got to have someone to monitor it. And, that takes, some attention. And
it can't be any of us.
You can do your own as long as you're careful. It's better if it's just you as a person.
No, I meant monitoring. If the city put up the
Yep.
site, could one of us be the monitor?
I think that's something that could be discussed if we're working on policies. Like the library has a very clear policy that talks about, they have a number of staff who are trained in social media. They're trained, they have a policy in terms of when you take comments down, how you interact, what you post. So I think there is a possibility that we could evolve to that kind of hybrid where it's both a staff and a volunteer from one of the committees. So I think we could put that on the list for conversation. But that's kind of the pieces we're trying to put in place as we evolve from an organizational point of view to these other means of communication. Not surprisingly, we're a little behind, and it takes time. Out of someone's day to kind of be on top of that. But like I said, we're moving in that direction in some forms. And I think that's certainly something that could be talked about down the road as more gets going with the committee and there are more projects, and it may be a collaboration to find out how to do that. And like I said, we've got some templates from the other departments where they're a little ahead of the game because of the nature of what they do. They do more services that are outward. So we're trying to put those pieces in place on the other parts of the organization.
Well, and so in reality, if down the road, if we did this or another committee does it, like
Yep.
historic, then it would be good for, it could be a template for any committee that wanted to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we try to, we try to learn as we go along. And if we found something that works, repeat it. Yeah.
I misunderstood at our last meeting, and I thought it was okay to do social media, so I created a Facebook page. Do I need to take it down at this point, or just leave it out there and not promote it?
How many of you are on that page?
I have one college friend that's on that page.
Oh, okay, all right. You know what, why don't we set up a time to talk with Stephanie?
Okay.
And let's see what that bandwidth is. She's looked at the policy, the media policy. One thing we did when we first rolled out some of our social media sites is we just didn't turn on comments. We used it to push out information, but not to have the back and forth because of,
Okay.
not wanting to leave a comment thread unlooked at, shall we say.
I can turn off comments.
And that might be what we do until we find a way to roll it out and monitor it. And
And it doesn't mention
Yeah.
City of Portsmouth at all. It just is about historic
Yeah.
cemeteries of Portsmouth.
yeah, let's set up a time and look at it, and let's see if we can find a way. Maybe that becomes our little test site. And
I'm
yeah,
also interested in getting in on that meeting because there are people who are already wondering where the social media is for this. So having something like an Instagram that's just like, hey, check out these graves. Hey, we're doing a thing. That's just a notice board more
Right.
than a discussion board, which I think that's what you're having the issue with, where you might result in porn if people are
Yeah.
having discussion.
you're
don't
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
just,
Yep.
I don't think that's really what Instagram is it's more of a, hey, look at all these things rather than have discussions where you might have that
Right.
issue with Facebook.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right, and that's why, like I said, when we did our stormwater, it's more of a push out, but it's full of pictures and videos and that kind of stuff. So I think it's a conversation that we could have. So Celeste, Dee, I'll set something up maybe with Stephanie, and
Perfect.
we'll see if we can evolve it to the next step. And I know we have new pictures from the headstone cleaning, so maybe we can talk about updating the web page as well with that.
So could I
Oh,
get in on that meeting too?
Yes, okay.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay, so I got Carrie, Celeste, Dee, and then reach out to Stephanie. Okay.
I think you have said some important things, and I wonder if it's possible to sort of synthesize what you said, and even just in our minutes that come out,
Sure.
for you to say something like, you may, 1, 2, 3, you may not, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. In other words, simplify it.
Yeah.
But as a guidance. But I'm also very curious, like, what if we inadvertently, because no one would do it on purpose, but what if we made the mistake and violated some of this? What are the consequences? I mean, do we all
City
go?
prison.
Yeah. Do we all go to city jail or something? No, seriously. Do we harm ourselves in some way?
Generally, the answer is, the occasional misstep is not a problem. It's when we have
Repeat offenders.
people who yeah,
Okay.
who have issues, and when it causes concern within the community, because that's the thing. It
Well, that would
is
be
in a
important.
minute. And also, sometimes what I've done is, when it's happened on a substantive issue, is you can also bring it forward to the next meeting and disclose it and say, this happened, here's the subject matter discussed, these are public records, and at least it's kind of on the record that we all acknowledge, oops, there was a serial communication of substance, and we're acknowledging it, and we talk about it, and we talk about how to prevent it.
Okay.
So we're in good faith.
All right.
And that's really what we're looking for, is good faith. Yeah, like I said,
I have a question.
yes.
So when you're saying a conversation of substance, if the city posts, hey, there's a cleaning for the cemetery, and all of us like it, we're not like, Facebook like or put an emoji or a GIF or something on there. That's not a conversation, just like a comment or a reaction. You're talking about having actual formative conversation on a page like that.
So that feels like a bar exam question, because I'd say that really falls into the gray area. So I would
going to say that.
Well, yeah, where do you draw the line when it comes
So I would generally, I would try not to have it be more than 7 of you that like it or post an emoji, because it is an expression and it's right on topic. I understand why one would want to do that from a social media perspective of getting more likes to get more attention. And I think that's what's hard. And that's why I say it's a great bar exam question, because I don't think the right to know law was drafted with this particular circumstance in mind. We're always often playing catch up in the law to this evolving situation. And like I said, in some states it's a hard no, because it's, you're walking the line there. So my preference would be to be conservative and not have it be more than 7 of you that do the liking or the emoji. That would be the conservative answer.
I would, oh, go ahead, Celeste.
Oh, sorry. I mean, what happens when City of Portsmouth shares,
That's what I was
hey,
thinking.
there's a cleaning, and then I share it, and then, 4 or 5 other people from the committee also share it to their private pages, and now you have, 7,
not the
8,
same
9
thing.
different
Because it's a
conversations
chain.
happening on those pages. Does all of us sharing it to our pages, does that count as a
Just
conversation?
I would say the sharing is no, because any conversation, if you will, that you might have with your neighbors or your friends saying, oh, isn't this cool? Do you want to join us at the next time? Is then on your page and not, it's not in the broader group, and it's their conversation, not yours conversation.
I think it would be, is a little easier to understand if you think like, if Dee posted on her Facebook page, we look at so-and-so's doing this, another town is, what do you think about this, guys? And then all of a sudden, all of us go on there, or 5 or 7 of us do, and make a specific comment about, oh, I think that's a great idea, or I think that's a great idea. That becomes a discussion
Right.
of something that we would do in a normal meeting.
Right.
And that we would want to that might go out to the public.
Right.
So we can't do that online. We have to have that discussion here. But if everybody goes out and said, oh, we had a wonderful day at the cleaning, and we had wine and champagne and did all kinds of stuff, and then we all shared that. That's not a thread of comments. It's just a sharing of events. It's anything that would constitute us having to make a vote on.
Decision, right.
Right. So it gets complicated, for
That's
sure.
like getting back to what Eva said, the do's and don'ts.
Right. Right,
Because
just make a nice little list
Yeah.
that we can consult with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we should just sort of informally agree that we won't post on anybody's pages for the next few months until we get it. You can go and look, but
good.
just let's not. And the chances of 5 of us posting to someone's page is rare. But if we just, until it settles down, because this is an issue that's not going to go away for anybody
right.
in the city.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why, we're giving you our best guidance, but it's always evolving guidance, because sometimes we get decisions from the courts that help inform us. What does this really mean? Or, kind of see policies from other municipalities on how they've tried to answer this question. Well, if I just like something, does that constitute an expression? So these are good questions, and they're all fair questions, and, it's not always a clear answer. Sorry.
I heard an expression about that this week regarding the legal penumbra, and it's like something that is like not totally black, not totally white, kind of trying to find a light someplace.
Right. All right, so let's move on to the headstone cleaning schedule, which you all have. This is just a suggested one. You'll see where the X's represent when our meetings are on this calendar. The Saturday circles
Our cleaning?
are actually, they're scheduled, or hopefully scheduled cleaning. What you'll see is a circle of a week in there. I actually had the pleasure of meeting the captain of the Cheyenne submarine, and he is really anxious about having his men get their volunteer hours. So he said, set up a schedule, not just for him, but he said, set up a schedule and I'll make sure they're there. So I've had some temporary commitments from the Elks, the DAR, and we haven't even touched Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. I want to see if one of us can do a presentation at Rotary to get some Rotary petition, help, help, and also maybe even money or what have you. So those are the projected weeks. And I didn't want to pick a date specifically because, I don't want to ask you to come help us and say you can only come on Wednesday. So
Can
what?
someone email that to me, please?
Yes, I will absolutely do that when I get
Are
home.
there any extras?
Right next to you?
No?
There's a couple down here.
I've got 2 of them here,
Oh,
so maybe I have it by mistake.
What this is based on, to some extent, I thought Corin would be here, but I walked with him. How do you pronounce his name?
Corin.
Corin, okay, because lots of times people correct me. So I walked the cemetery with him the other day about something else, and he and I are both hoping that they have a 100-gallon container that sits on a stand that, he was going to look into it and have it water, have it sitting there. And he also said, oh, well, I mentioned having like a little shed there. He goes, oh, I thought of something. So it's nothing guaranteed, but he has no problem with the Saturdays that we picked. But I'm looking to save money for them because it's time and a half every time on a Saturday, and it's also money out of his budget, to tie up someone for 4 or 5 hours. That means they're not doing something else somewhere else. Where we've all been trained, it makes it a little bit easier because they don't have to worry that, we're going to do it all wrong or what have you, just cleaning. So as long as we can let them know in advance, on the weekdays, this shouldn't be an issue. So,
And Corin mentioned that to me, that you two had spoken, and that he was going to try and find a way that to make it not need a staff person
right.
on the weekends with
Right.
a tank. So I know he's working on that piece. So if you
Right.
settle on dates, we'll keep working on how we could make that work.
So it sounds like we can have a 100-gallon tank there, like that
Yeah.
just on site, and they fill it up and then
Yeah.
can be
Which
used
is- yeah.
whenever we're there. Okay,
Yeah, because
great.
we could drop it on a Friday.
That would be
And
awesome.
just,
Yeah.
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 And the other part too is there are other options that we can look into, but,
Yep.
he was gung-ho about that. So,
Yep.
Before we decide on the schedule, I just want to say, I just picked it according to the flow of it, and there's never a good Saturday or any day during the week. We're always going to be bumping up against something. So
In the summer.
in the summertime. So, even if only 6 people show up, that's that many more headstones that are cleaned. But also, if we're out there, I'd like to get, well, this is part of fundraising, we'll be more visible, and there should be a lot of tourists around at that point in time, or just people out in general. So it gives us visibility. It's not necessarily about how many headstones we get cleaned. It's
And are these all North Cemetery dates?
all North Cemetery.
Yeah,
Which I want to clarify too is because I had assumed, and I thought in our earlier discussions, if we can remember, we sort of decided to focus this year on North and Union because it's the center of town. It's going to raise awareness and all of that. Because there are certainly, the other cemeteries are going to be a lot easier to get things done in than Union and North. So
Smaller, yeah.
smaller, just a lot of things. So,
it needs attention too.
yeah. So if anybody has any comments about what the dates are, and this will also be easier for us to have posted on the website people who would be interested in volunteering, because that's who came through last time. And this would also give any of you who are on social media the ability to post it when you want to post it, you know, what's coming up and what's going on, so.
I think June 11th is Market Square Day.
Yep, probably is.
Yeah.
Probably a really good day to
But
do
it's
it, because there'll
probably
be
a good
lots,
day.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can walk there and stuff. I don't know about the rest of you, but,
I will say that will probably be hard for Public Works because we have so many duties. But if Corin
Right.
thought he could do it, but I just,
or if we can get water there.
yeah, that's,
I'll talk with him.
that tends to be full on. You will have a hard time parking unless you're walking. It's a,
Yeah,
I expect it'll be busy because it's the first one back on the regular day.
right.
Um,
Nobody wants to do it on a Sunday. I mean, I would, but it's up to you guys. I don't.
I think it's good. I think it's good to do
Did you
that.
just want to move it to the following week, though, the 18th? Was that?
I mean, we can do that. I was sort of trying to keep the week, you know, week in between a cleaning and then doing another cleaning. But the 18th is fine with me. I really don't have any problems.
Yeah, I'm out of the country that Saturday anyway, so it's better for me on the 18th, but I mean, it works for everyone else. I just, once I heard that there was the market day, I mean, I live downtown, and I mean, that's crazy.
It is very busy.
Yeah,
It is very busy.
and it might detract rather than help. So,
No, you know, it's a valid point.
Yeah.
It's a
So,
valid
I mean, if that worked, I could be around for the 18th, but I'm not around on the 11th.
I think maybe we should move it to the 18th.
Yeah, no, that's fine with me. Again, this was just a suggestion of where to, a starting
Market
point.
Square is, you know,
It is going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the paper, you know, if they're going to publicize anything, it'll be Market Square, not cemetery.
That would
Many
be
of us-
true.
Many of us that retire, we can do it during the week if we have time. I mean, towards like maybe at the end of the day during the week.
Well, that's a possibility too. However, I'm thinking on Saturdays more in the terms of getting outside people
Yeah.
like came last time.
Interest.
Yeah. I have no problem moving it to the 18th.
And
No.
there's an advantage of setting a schedule now and getting
Mm-hmm.
that approved rather than having to get each
Yeah.
Exactly.
cleaning approved.
Right.
That's,
Yeah.
I think, why, you know, it was good for Sue to come up with a schedule.
So, yeah, most people think the 18th. Is that, does it, yeah, that's fine, whatever.
All right, the 18th it is.
And Chris, you better be there.
I might be a little jet lagged, but I will be there.
No, that's all right.
From Germany, Friday morning.
Okay, so 18th, and anybody else have any? And these are only I mean, we're going to mark these down, but I mean, obviously, if there's a hurricane or bad weather or something else comes up, I mean, this isn't do or die, or if somebody even offers another group to come in, as long as we give the DPW notice that we're doing, and Suzanne notice of what's going on.
Keep in mind, the Labor Day is September 5th, so if you're good with the 3rd, that's fine. I'm just pointing it out in case people, because I know a lot of people travel on that.
I would move that one too, because everybody's
Yeah.
school holidays.
To the last hurrah.
Yeah. Again, the only reason I didn't change it is because so many schools go back in the second week of August now. But I have no problem, so I just wanted you to know my thought behind
We move that to the 10th.
we can do that.
Yeah.
My son's getting married on the 10th.
Oh, is he?
I'm kidding.
Is he really?
He is, yeah.
Oh, congrats.
I can miss one.
Okay. I
Why don't you
didn't
go to
think-
the other ones?
None of these are mandatory, so. All right, so we're moving June, the 11th to June the 18th, and we're moving September 3rd to
10th.
the 10th. Any other problems you see, Suzanne? You know more what's going on in the,
No, I think that
DPW.
you hit the ones that I thought about, so.
yeah.
Yep.
All right. So you're going to make a motion?
Motion to accept the schedule as edited.
Changes to the schedule.
Motion to accept the schedule for future cleanings on June 18th, July 9th, August 6th, September 10th, and October 1.
Second.
And then how would we word for those, the week in?
The groups.
The group.
Because we'll have to wait till we get here about the water availability in the tank, right?
So why don't we, since we have a pending motion, why don't we vote on that pending motion to deal with these ones, the weekend ones, and then we'll circle back on.
Motion to accept. Right.
Just call the vote. All those in favor, because the
those-
motion has been
sorry.
made and seconded.
All those in favor? I will. Okay.
Opposed? Always say opposed, because when you do a voice vote.
Okay. Thank you.
And I think Celeste was an aye.
Oh, Celeste?
Celeste?
Yes, I said aye.
Oh,
Okay, sorry, that's why I wasn't sure. You got a little lost.
Okay. I'm totally lost when it comes to these procedures, so.
Okay, so now in terms of the weekly ones, I think that's less of an issue from a public works perspective, because we normally have staff working on weekdays, and it's not an extra effort, shall we say. I mean, we need some advance notice, but not the same kind of notice to bring someone in on a weekend. Do you want to pin down with
The Navy guy?
the Navy first, or do you want to kind of look at these weeks and see which ones the committees involve, where the committee could be there to help
That's, yeah.
manage, and then you'll know to say, hey, Navy, do you want June, July, or August?
That's what I was
Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking, so. Because if it's not the Navy, it could be the Elks or,
The Boy Scouts or something.
yeah, Girl Scouts, so.
Yeah.
Does anyone see any problems with the weeks that,
Are you looking to do it every month?
yep?
Okay, so it's a week every month for.
Yeah.
One of the days.
One of the days.
One of the days every
of
month,
what?
yes.
But I wanted to
One
pick a
day.
week before I asked any group, hey, I have to get back to you. I'd rather say we could usually this week and let them
Yeah.
pick a date,
Yeah.
so.
That looks good. See what they come back with once you throw those out there.
Yeah, so. All right, so what do we have to do? Make a
You gotta make a
motion?
motion for the week for community service.
Let's make a motion for group cleaning from different civic groups to clean on the weeks of June 20th, July 18th, August the 15th, September the 12th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, you are so running meetings from now. Oh, well, great, so.
You have those dates now?
Yeah, so you all have your copies. If you think of anybody or you want to reach out to any group, I mean, they don't have to come during that week, but all of you can reach out to anybody and invite them to come cleaning. We will have forms there, but it would be nice, we need to know ahead of time if you're bringing somebody, so. That's it for headstone cleaning right now, because I want to get on to fundraising. If anybody has any more questions. Oh, I wanted to just let you know, one of the projects that was on the original assessment, up in Cotton Cemetery, as you go into South Street, from South Street, the left-hand wall was coming away from where the tombs are in there.
Is there receiving vaults right there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
on that side. The city approved getting it fixed, and it's now fixed, and you have to go by it. It's beautiful.
Oh.
And original, yeah, when you go, you'll see, it's totally different. Oh, well, not different, it's all the same stones. On here, it was $60,000 in 2013. The city paid $5. So it's really worth shopping around. Thanks to Michael Griffin, he was having some other work done in the cemetery, and
Wonderful.
the people were interested,
Yes.
and thanks to Suzanne and the group.
Peter
they
Rice, yep, we quickly said yes.
And they,
For that price?
yes,
Good deal.
yeah. So
That
one
was what
more-
we thought, too.
One more thing. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
they did a beautiful job. So on to fundraising.
For the
400, sorry, real quick with this one. I'm hoping you all got a chance to read the email that I sent back in the beginning of the month. I don't know what anybody, I didn't hear back from anybody. Oh, yeah, that's right there.
This one right here?
Yeah. I didn't hear, it was attached. Which one is it attached to? I think you have it
It's
right there,
attached to the
Karen.
minutes. Yep.
It's attached to the minutes, Karen.
Proposed 400th activities.
Yep.
Right. So,
Didn't I tell you I would do documents?
yeah, but I mean, that's only one
All right.
portion of it. We still haven't decided if we just want to do one day, if we want to do a whole week, like that information you sent.
I did think about that. I think there are so many things you could think about, but how would you get the most bang for your buck, so to speak? And
Well, hopefully, we're not, well, I know, we're not,
in terms of a week, as opposed to spreading it out during the year. That's what I was thinking, and I couldn't come to any conclusion about what would be better. So I wonder if anyone had better thoughts about it than I did.
well, so just briefly, we can plan one day, pick several times and spread them out over the, several times or activities, different ones. Pick the 5 days or just do several single events in one day. So there's plenty of options there.
So you're saying in A here, commit to a week of activities, and then there's week choices?
Yeah,
That's
the-
2023,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yes.
was a little confused
Sorry.
by that. Yeah.
Yeah, 2023.
So in 2023, we're looking to have a week with these activities, right?
Or these are just suggested,
Or
yeah.
Whatever we decide on.
Right,
yeah.
or we could just pick a couple of, we don't even have to pick anything per se today. I just
Right.
want to get us in the 400th.
Are weeks being assigned, or like, is it?
No,
Is this
no.
like throughout the year, the summer, or?
It is throughout the year. They're doing,
So it's a long, full
it's
year?
starting in January.
There's
Got it.
a couple, like, signature events. Forget, there's no parade, but, what was the first one? I forget.
I can't.
No,
Do they have a calendar ready, or
That's what I was going to ask.
if they
Does
do,
somebody
they
have a
could plug
calendar?
in,
Yeah.
where it makes the most sense for us?
I don't know.
No,
We could
I-
just be vague and maybe
I
elaborate.
went on a couple weeks ago, and there was no permanent calendar for any events. They're still raising money, and there's still, some people still want to have the parade and things like that,
They're
so,
trying to get in the summer too, a tall ship review or something.
Right.
I saw that too.
right. So, I mean, all,
Air show.
yeah. I mean, all the planning has to start now, this summer, especially for if we were bringing people in, so they could put us on their calendar. And if there was some money involved, we would have to raise money for it. But
So
I
Sue,
don't
are you our representative on the 400th anniversary committee?
no, he is.
He is. Okay, so you're actually attending those meetings?
No, they haven't had any.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They've been having just internal meetings. They
Oh,
haven't
okay.
had public
Got it.
meetings there because
For some
they
reason I
aren't a
think you're
public
like
body.
further along and like we were behind, but it sounds like we're more at the
We
vanguard.
met
No,
with them, and what we need to do is just get like an application in by the end of June, just to say we want to work with them
Yeah.
on different events. And we don't have to be specific.
Yeah, I have the application. It's very generic.
Yeah.
They're still not really,
But I think to Sue's point, we got to start thinking about it, because it is
Yeah.
just a year from, well, not
No.
even
It
a
would
year,
be,
6
it would
months from
be
now.
good if we knew what dates there was a specific event going on and have like, maybe we can have a tour of the North Cemetery in the morning. And after that, there's another event for the 400 in the afternoon. So people come here for the day and but not knowing what the events are, that's kind
Yeah,
of hard
that's
to
what,
do.
yeah, I'm thinking we put the application in, we just be vague on dates and work with them.
I think that might work for now. If you
now.
know you want to do a week, maybe you get the application and say, we're looking at a week in the summer and are willing to coordinate with the 400th as your schedule evolves. And you know, it may be next month that they may have more structure and notice because they will have gotten other applications in, and they'll say, oh yeah, organization is doing something this week. So it may be that they will get more information over the next few weeks that will help inform where you might want to slot in.
So, like, for instance, I think like the historic walks and characters in the cemeteries talking about, you know, people who were there. I think people would really like that. And that's kind of, you know, what we're more closely aligned to doing, I think, than these other like reenactments and things like that. So I would just think that is probably the most relevant, talking about the history and the provenance of the cemeteries, how they relate to Portsmouth today. And I guess what we'd have to do then is we put an application in, get a date right on their calendar, because then you want, if you're going to be doing something like that requires people to set aside time, you know, because it's like at 9 o'clock or it's at 1 o'clock or whatever we might do it on. Then we just need to make sure we're getting it out well in advance, so when people are looking at coming to Portsmouth, they're like, oh, this looks really interesting, you know, there's like that tour of our cemetery.
And I think that's the point.
Yeah.
So
So they
maybe,
can make plans around that, so.
so maybe I should rephrase the question. I just thought of it because of Chris. Does anybody disagree with anything that's on here? That it's a potential that we could, you know, want to do it? So that,
On the list of.
yeah, on the list of different things. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying commit, but is there anything, there's nothing on here that any of us would feel that is inappropriate?
Well, I have some questions.
So
Yeah,
you're talking
go
about
ahead.
The proposed 400th activities? This?
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah,
Doesn't look like that, is that what that is?
Different.
just a different format.
Oh, okay. I have a question about, have we finished with the week versus days approach?
No, that's part of my question, or reforming my question, is let's put in the application. I think we all agree that we should do something. We don't need to decide that today and get our name in. Dee can work with them and find out what their thoughts process is and how we can move around it. And then after that, after meeting or two, it'll put us, you know, in July or August, then we can come back and decide as a group, you know, do we want to do this? Do we want to do that? And we'll have a better idea of what they'll even accept from us. So,
All right, so we're not going to be talking about in the application that the tentative
Right.
application.
You know, you don't have
nothing
to
about weeks or days.
right.
No.
The
Nothing.
application is very vague.
It's just wanting to know
Yeah. It's just,
your name,
it's kind of a
short
commitment.
description of your Portsmouth 400 project. So we're just gonna, we would just put in, we want to hold some events around the cemetery histories. Which Portsmouth, oh, you have to decide, we're in their legacy. They have 7 columns, and we fit into their legacy program. Will your program charge admission or purchase prices? No. If your program, you know, are we self-supporting? Yeah. So, that's it. That's it.
Now, from the list that you have,
Yeah.
there is number 4, which is a week-long encampment.
Yeah.
That's probably a little too much.
Yeah,
for
that
us.
one, yeah, what would that be even, and where would you put them?
Strawberry
And who
Bank
is
does
the
it all the time.
1776 group?
Which one? The militia? The state of New Hampshire.
Oh, that-
Number 4,
Yeah, number 4.
Oh, what is she? Oh.
The
long encampment.
1776 group.
Right, I guess
There
they're
is a-
asking, is there a group, a specific 1776 group, or would
Yes,
it,
there
would it
is.
be like
There
Sue and
is.
Carrie
No,
dressing up, spending a week in tent.
There are encampments, and that happened
there's an official
at Strawberry
Yeah, yeah,
Bank.
yeah.
there are official groups for everything that's on here. And yes, and it could be interpreted relative, possibility over by the Gundalow, which we representative, and it'd also be right next to Point of Graves. And it would show how the people that are buried in Point of Graves, what their life was like back in the 1700s. So, I'm,
But
But
Strawberry
is there
Bank
such a
does-
thing as a 1776
yeah,
group?
yes,
And what are they?
they're
Colonial reenactors.
and
They'll have,
that's
like,
all they
muskets,
do.
three-corner
They go
hat.
all over the state and set up
Yeah.
encampments and show people what it was like to live back in the 1700s.
Fires.
Yeah,
Do they have a
And the drums.
website or something?
I don't know.
More precise name?
No, I don't know. I just know them by that name.
'Cause I went on the internet, and there were at least a couple of groups that call themselves 1776 groups, and they do different things, so I just.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted
Why don't you
know
research it?
Which was the specific,
No, I didn't.
Mind.
No, I have, these are just general ideas.
So someone can research that.
So if,
well, I'd be glad to.
yeah, that would be great.
Excellent.
But this might be something that Strawberry Bank may already have on the docket, because there are encampments that happen over there.
And if that's
We do
true,
it all the time, that's true.
Yeah.
that would be great, and we could fit something in at the Point of Graves.
So, yeah, Strawberry Bank
Coordinate.
is doing that, so maybe a little detachment.
That's
can
why
be
I
over
wish
there.
there was a calendar, that we would be in,
On
we
who's
would
doing
be able
what.
to make very good decisions.
Right,
If
exactly.
we knew what they were
Right.
doing.
These are just totally suggestions. They're
Right.
nobody
Well, they're
specific.
good ones, but it would be great to make
And-
them,
And that's why the research needs to be done. So we need to, like you say, Eva, that, and you're right, I know Strawberry Banks had their encampments, and I don't know, but there are a number of them in the state, and there are some that even come across borders too, so.
Yeah, I think we just want to get the application in and say our intent is to collaborate with the committee. And that, we have things that we have in mind.
Right.
And if they work out in the calendar, the 400th, then
Right.
it's a
It's lot of
win-win.
sense, Right.
And also the 400th will have more information, just like you said, what is Strawberry Bank doing, what's going on down there, so
Right.
that would be part of it, so.
But we do want to know if we're having interaction with an outside group or sponsorship of their activities. We want to know who they are, I think.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm driving.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah, like the fife and drum, they're the people who use, the kids that you see downtown Portsmouth all the time, and they're part of.
Like the
I know
Von
who
Mall,
they are.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, so,
What about the militia? What, is this a state,
yep,
the state?
First
state militia, yeah.
First New Hampshire Regiment.
So I have a question.
Yeah,
There's also a Second New Hampshire Regiment.
oh, I didn't know that, oh,
Yep,
cool.
but it's-
The
Maybe
question
they-
is, are there any activities that aren't appropriate in cemeteries, like it's sacred ground?
No. Most cemeteries in Europe and larger, like even Boston, they're treated like arboretums. They're used for that. They're used for places, parks, for, reflection, all those kinds of things. So,
Like bands, is fife and drum, and,
no.
I mean, so help me understand, because, I'm from a clergy family.
Right.
And I probably think of things a little differently.
No.
But like a band marching amongst the gravestones?
Well, no, they wouldn't be, no, the fife and drum kids, there's 8 of them.
Yeah,
And they would be.
stand someplace.
And they would stand by the sign of the North Cemetery, say, North Cemetery doesn't have to be there, or by down in Prescott Park. Oh, no, we're not. No.
I was just trying to picture it, and I was thinking, oh, that sounds, we're walking on people's graves.
No.
Okay.
No, sorry, no. I'm glad you asked, because I wouldn't want you to leave here thinking that we were. No, it would all be I don't want to say protocol, but it would certainly be respectful to anything that's going, or people buried in any of the cemeteries, yeah. That's more than what dog owners do, so.
Oh, my God. Started.
So that, we'll stay with this. So, you start, you're the better.
Motion to, do we have a motion?
Do we need a motion?
That we're going to submit
If you-
application.
I think a motion would be nice for the minutes, that an application would be submitted to the 400th.
Okay, do we have a motion that we're going to submit an application to collaborate with the 400th
We're
committee?
making the motion to submit the application for the 400.
Okay, I
Somebody
thought I had a
second.
call for one.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will call the motion.
Thank you, Sue and Chris, you are helping me out here.
This does not include this list here.
There's no specifics that are.
You know, any of you can add something to this list when we come to discussion. It's not, this is not finalized by any stretch of the imagination.
We
All
need
in
to call the
favor?
vote. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, so Dina Howe has another job to put together, the applications.
Which is fine.
Yeah, but seriously, when you guys are doing research, or if you just happen to read something, whatever, you can add anything to this list, so when it comes time to discussion in July or August, certainly, just bring your thoughts with you, so.
Yeah, and I think the 400th committee also has,
Yes.
you know, suggestions. Like they're working with a couple coders from Portsmouth High that are going to do QR codes at different places so that you can look up the history of the different place.
We need to get in on that.
Yeah, I think we should get in on that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so fundraising, very quickly. Not, I put out the sheet, fundraising. It just looks like this. Again, these are just suggestions. You have one? Yep, just suggestions. This came from, actually, this sheet, if you all remember, that we did a long time ago at the very beginning, and our mission to restore, preserve, and safeguard Portsmouth's historic cemeteries and their history for future generations. The only way we're going to be able to do that is potentially to fundraise or gifts in kind. Plus, yes, the city is putting aside some money for us, but that's not going to cover everything. That just in repair, it wouldn't even cover it all. So, and other things that we might like to do. So, I'm just going to run through this real quick, what I've done so far. Federal grants, we're next year, LCHIP, Eva completed the Moose Plate grant, and Suzanne now has it to see if it's doable.
Review it,
and-
yep.
And send it into the state for
And I
20.
just want to add that it's due 3 weeks from yesterday, so time is of the essence.
Yeah. And they have the,
But they're allowing this extension, though? Is there an extension?
It's due June 22nd.
Oh, 3 weeks later it's due.
yeah.
I had the same question, Chris. I was thinking,
I was like,
I thought
sound
she
like-
told me like the middle of
sounded like we were
June, and I
late,
was
yeah.
going to do it before
Yeah.
the middle of next
It's June
week.
22nd.
Thank you.
So we got the estimate for the work. Eva put all the paperwork together and everything, and Suzanne now has it
Yep.
for the city side to, do their part.
Yep.
Foundation grants, I haven't had any time to look at foundation grants. So if any of you are familiar with grant writing or different grants or charities that you know, that would be great. And the reason most of the money, grant money that we would go after, from this point is going to be for 2024, 2023, 24, because it takes a year to most places to go through any of these processes. So we have to think long-term too, as well as just trying to get money in a pot and keep on going.
So I've never written, I mean, I don't know anything about grant writing.
Yep.
Should I like try to take a course and figure out how to do that? I mean, how do you learn how to do that?
You can do that on YouTube.
On YouTube?
Yep.
Maybe I'll just make
You
that
can
a
learn
personal
just
goal.
about anything in YouTube.
Yeah.
Courses.
Yeah, that's true.
Another thing too is, once you know the kind of grant that you're writing, oftentimes all these organizations will send you copies of previous grants to give you an outline of how they prefer it or what they're actually looking for. So that's another option too. I don't think grant writing isn't necessarily hard.
It's a skill. People
Well,
have jobs that are grant writing.
yes, I understand that, but,
I think if you just answer the questions.
right, what's hard about it is doing the research, there
Right.
can be a ton of
It's
research
time-consuming.
that goes into
Yeah.
it. So, have you written grants?
No.
Yeah. There's a ton of research that goes into it. So when you get an example, it shows you what kind of research they're looking for. So you don't have to go down one rabbit hole to find out that was the wrong one and go down another. So,
So then the first step is really to find out what types of foundations.
right. And there are a lot of them out there. And there used to be a book published of all the foundations in the United States, but I haven't seen that or had time to look for it. So, and besides now, I have no idea online what's out there. You haven't written any grants?
No,
No.
I have not.
So,
Yeah,
So
you need to specifically research historic preservation, because many of the grants, they are just kind of honed in on a particular area. So you can have a lot of, the big foundations probably have multiple categories, but smaller foundations are very specific
yeah.
what they do.
So I would commit to getting a list together, at least starting a list of foundations that we might consider.
That's great. And as Susan said, when you start researching, you'll see every grant or foundation you find, the first page is always about exactly what they're interested in supporting. And when you're looking, there are different categories under different things. So,
Okay, so that's a small thing, but I'll do it.
no, it's an important thing.
important.
And sponsor, we'll have to put this to the next one, but just quickly, I was thinking when I was a sponsor, a graveyard, that would be a company, but I was wondering about if we could sponsor a headstone to be repaired.
Oh,
If someone wants to donate $100, and that will repair 3 headstones, and we'll send you before and after pictures of what your money did.
oh,
I mean,
Good idea.
small things and big things together. That's just, and that's also going to get our name out there. So,
It's kind of like when you're selling like those bricks for walkways.
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was thinking,
Yeah.
because
then you
we've
put meters up,
done,
yeah.
we've done stuff like that before, obviously. It's a little tricky to manage, but let's try, I'll try and tease that out. I know we've got a list of things
yeah.
to kind of explore, but I think that it's familiar
Yeah.
in structure, and maybe we could find a way to do that.
And I think people like save a whale or save whatever you're like, oh, that's cool. You know, we could, whatever, we can discuss that further. And then the research other communities funding. I haven't found any cities comparable sizes that I had to do any fundraising or what have you. So, and I've talked to a couple of trustees, and they just seem to have money. So, and that's not fair, but I mean, they've had trustees taking care of their cemeteries for years and years and years. So, whatever they've done over the years, they've put it in a trust and is earning money, and they can do the cleaning. So, we don't have to go over the rest. This is just part of what was on this list. But I do want to go over it real quick, if everybody doesn't have to leave right this minute.
Well, I do have something on the new business,
What, oh,
under any further business.
okay, go ahead.
All right, I just wanted to bring to the attention, and I was hoping that Corin would be here today. Those two pictures that I sent Kevin to post, could you click on them so everybody can see them? All right, you see this picture?
Yep.
It's the weed whacker, yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the graves, the first grave that we cleaned that day when we were all training.
Let's see.
Yes, I remember very specifically because I was there for that training. This is one of the graves, and it happened right after they mowed the grass. It's kind of, I don't know what the alternative is. If you want to do the second picture?
Yep, I'll talk to Corin and see. Part of it's a labor
I-
issue. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. Sorry.
I've spoken to Corin about this issue.
Yeah.
And so I've been going to the North Cemetery for a long time, and I haven't noticed that this, I mean, I would have noticed that if all of a sudden I walk by a grave and it's covered with clippings. So I don't know. if this
Might have
is
been
very
wet that
new.
day, is my.
I don't know.
Yeah, I noticed that when we were cleaning.
Yep.
I wet down, some of the gravestones so that I could clean it. And then I went and clipped the grass next to it, which
Yeah,
was,
I
don't
don't
do
know.
that.
This one here is, I went and I bought a broom, and I just cleaned them afterwards, because it's like, I don't even know whose grave this is, so I can't read it. But we just, I know a lot of other cemeteries, you don't see that. I was hoping that Michael Griffin would be here. They mow the lawn over there all the time, and they have a much bigger area. So there's got to be a way to do it.
I'll
that
talk
would-
to Corin. I'll take
Yeah.
these pictures. So they're on the.
Yeah.
I'll
So I remember you
Kevin's
said they had
got
to do it all by hand.
yeah, they do.
Which causes an issue.
Yeah.
The-
Which I'm not
When,
Yeah.
when Corin and I walked the thing is, it's not mowable by hand, I mean,
By machine.
by machine. There are parts of it, and one of the guys, he assigns 3 gentlemen to do this. One of them is on a mower that can go around and do the sections that they can. 2 of them are doing weed whacking.
Right, it's the weed whacking.
Some graves are only this far apart. I mean, we walked through them. So if you go down one side, it goes this side, and then you have to come back down. There isn't a weed whacker that has, I don't think has a 20-inch
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
fly out
Too heavy.
of this thing. It would be too big. And,
So if it's wet, and then they come by with a weed whacker,
That's what's happening.
That's right,
Yeah.
it's splattered.
yeah.
Yep.
it's gonna
and
splatter because the-
it's, I mean, some of it is just done by weed whacker. There is
Right.
no mowing.
Right.
And they don't even finish the cemetery with the 3 men that they have. So it's not that the city doesn't care that that's happening. Yes, we can keep talking to them and try to come up with a solution and stay on top of it, but
Is it something
It's a
that we can,
resource,
we
right.
can,
Right.
they can spray to retard the growth of the grass? I mean, I'd rather just see,
It's a blower.
you know,
we talked about the
Yeah.
blower.
Yeah.
And putting it on the back, it won't fit down through some of the spaces between the, not all of the spaces, yeah, but it would still be hit or miss. They would just go down the ones that they could and come back down through, and it would still be the overall same problem. And he doesn't have time. Well, what they can mow, if he had 2 people, one on the machine, one weed whacking, and one with the blower, then a lot of the cemetery wouldn't even get mowed or weed whacked. So,
It's surprisingly labor intensive, and that's the problem.
a
real challenge.
We need a creative way of being able to do the job. I mean, I'd rather just see fake grass in that area than having this problem. And it goes away.
Extra turf.
It goes away, the mowing goes away, and you don't cause the damage. So if we can get some of that, it's like,
you call the high school and find out how much the turf down there costs.
hey, if they don't want it, why don't you say we have a use for it over there?
Well, that's true too. But no, I agree with you. When you go to all the sites and for restoration and preservation, grass on headstones is right in the top 3. There's no getting around that. I'm not making little of it. I agree, we should stay on top of it, do some research on what other cemeteries are doing, and
I think that might be helpful. Is there some technique that we are missing, or do people only mow on days when it's not wet and more likely to blow off? I mean, maybe there's some,
I think that's probably the biggest issue and can be rectified by tweaking schedules, right?
right, that's why I'm,
Because, yeah,
right.
I've done a lot of landscaping when I was younger in the past,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what happens. It's
It's
splats,
wet.
It's wet.
Yep.
And then it dries and it sticks. It gets
Right.
really hard, too.
yep.
So it's doing it when the weather's bad.
Yeah.
I know these guys are probably on these schedules, and you're not supposed to really mow grass when it's raining out for these reasons.
I'll raise it with Corn.
Yeah.
so I agree 100%, so if anybody wants nothing to do at night, want to look cemetery preservation, I did that. But it is on the top of the list of every site I've ever gone to back in last fall when I was looking into it, so,
To go.
and he's aware of it, so. All right, well, we have to call the meeting to an end.
Adjournment?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
I move
finally
to
got it.
adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good meeting, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone.
You know, anytime you guys have any ideas or run into, please email D&I so that we can look into it too and